Turn around and go to the balcony.
If there's one aspect of Dying Light the Beast that feels like a tribute to the original game, it's atmosphere. Harran, the setting of the first game, had a really distinct feel to it that, for a city that was dying from a zombie virus, still felt teeming with life and character. Castor Woods, the setting of Dying Light the Beast, has a completely different tone to it, coming much closer to the developer's own European roots with its architecture and layout. The music has a different vibe to it, trading action movie synths and Eastern influences for a much more brooding Midwest emo guitar. Nevertheless, just like Harran, this place feels as though it has a history. Its buildings once served a purpose, its undead inhabitants all had lives of their own which are clear to see. When the sun sets on it, light reflects off the roof tiles and accentuates its sharp and threatening exterior. But when the stars watch over it at night, there's an opposing, peaceful feel. This all adds up to create atmosphere, which I'd argue is one of the core tenets of a Dying Light game. The big question that hung over Dying Light the Beast was whether or not it was going to be a real return to the franchise's origins. After sweeping changes of direction in Dying Light 2 weren't received well, Techland had to win people back with the Beast, and its solution was bringing back Kyle Crane, the playable character from the 2015 classic. But would that really be enough? For a project that started as DLC for Dying Light 2, could Techland truly make the changes it needed to with just a return of a character? If I had any doubts before I started playing, they were almost immediately quelled when I first set foot into the Beast's open world. Upon escaping from the game's tutorial level, you're met with a familiar, overstimulating motion that lovers of the first game will know all too well. The wind whistles through your ears, the grass and trees sway, birds flock in the distance, and dust dances in the air. I'm sure there are subtle differences, but it's as though the sound effects used in this game are lifted and laid straight from the original Dying Light. The same feeling is there when you first run around the old town in Castor Woods. Parkour feels just like it did when you explored Harran, and by default you even get a lot of Crane's abilities you unlock in the first game. The floaty jump from Dying Light 2 is gone, the grunts of Kyle Crane as he clambers up a wall or hacks at a zombie sound just like they used to. The infected even have the same beautiful idiocy. They stumble around aimlessly like they're caught in a trance until you get close enough to them that they become utterly fixated on you. They even have the same ragdoll physics, which is a totally underappreciated part of Dying Light's identity. All of these things make the first few hours in the Beast feel like a homecoming. It really seems as though Techland rediscovered the formula that made the original game so good, and it harnesses it to great effect. But here's the thing, Dying Light was never just a great parkour system. It was never just Kyle Crane's grunts. Its atmosphere was integral to the experience, but Dying Light never relied solely on vibes to be a masterpiece. Dying Light was a careful balance of so many things. A tower of gameplay systems, progression trees, and a robust resource economy interwoven into one another to make a beautifully cohesive package. These systems all interacted and depended on one another, so if you disturbed even one of them, the entire balance of the game would be forfeit. The longer I played Dying Light the Beast, the more I couldn't shake the feeling that that same intricate balance was missing. And that's not to say that the Beast is a bad game. In many ways, it harkens back to the first Dying Light, it pays its respects, and in some ways it even improves it. But as a die-hard fan of that original game, I can't help but make comparisons to the 2015 design formula I love so much. And even if you enjoyed Dying Light the Beast, I bet part of you is thinking, this just doesn't go quite as hard. I don't know whether the Beast being founded on the bedrock of Dying Light 2 is what gave me this feeling, and from the looks of the reviews, I seem to be one of the only people to feel this way, but after roughly 30 hours in Dying Light the Beast playing as a solo, I'm not really sure that I liked it very much. The Beast definitely recognizes a lot of the surface level things that I love about the original Dying Light. But lurking underneath its brooding, powerful husk, the intricate balance of gameplay systems I wanted from a true Dying Light sequel just wasn't there. Dying Light the Beast is set 13 years after the events of Dying Light the Following. Crane, caught somewhere between the world of the volatiles and the surviving humans, has been experimented on with engineered strains of the virus. This has restored him to human form, but he's been left with enhanced abilities accessible only through beastly outbursts of rage. Now an escapee of all that torture, Kyle wants to seek out the Baron, who oversaw his prison sentence, and get his revenge. So out you go into the world of Castor Woods, a European district in the Alps. In many ways, the Beast feels like it wants to pay homage to Crane's entire story, including the following DLC. And I think this is the first major game design choice that I didn't really vibe with. Dying Light the Following's larger map and use of vehicles worked because they were a change of pace from the free-running cityscapes of the base game, but its driving mechanics weren't exactly the main thing I remember from my time in the first game. Free-running is the signature appeal of exploring a Dying Light game, and in the Beast's expansive and much larger map, it feels like it's playing second fiddle to driving a truck. I would much rather have had an expanded city environment I could free-run around instead of the smaller industrial and old town areas in Castor Woods that feel so condensed compared to the areas designed for driving. Because of Haran's smaller size and the way its quests take you around it, I always come away from Dying Light 1 feeling as though I've explored the entire map. By the end of the Beast, there are huge portions of the map I still feel like I haven't seen, and since they're mostly all empty spaces that you don't drive to in the main story, I don't feel this need to go and explore and uncover what's in them. Perhaps more importantly, the changes to how vehicles work in this game compared to the following DLC made things a lot less enjoyable for me. In the following, driving a buggy around was really made interesting by the fact that you had a separate skill tree for it that transformed it into a zombie apocalypse Batmobile. There was progression there. You had interesting fuel mechanics and car part crafting thrown in, and although your cart was destructible, you could armor it up and strengthen it over time to prevent that from becoming an issue. Dying Light the Beast utilizes trucks, but you don't have a skill tree for them, and you don't have just one that you can call your own and respawn whenever you're at a safe zone. I'm told that if you do all of the race missions, you finally unlock the ability to call one back to a safe zone, but that's pretty late in the game to gain access to a mechanic that feels kind of vital to me. That means that for the majority of the game, you need to go out of your way to find a vehicle to drive around the map, which often means running off in the opposite direction from where your next objective is. Sure, you might say that this world is explorable on foot, but with a plethora of free-running skills at my disposal, it feels so boring to run along an open road and not use any of them. It took me about 11 hours to unlock the one skill on the progression tree that means you drive more efficiently. Until that point, fuel runs out very quickly, and although it's not exactly difficult to find, cars are really destructible from swarms of infected being drawn to the noise they make. Let me be clear, I have no problem at all with the Beast wanting to use vehicles. I loved the following DLC, but with no progression to the cars and no one singular car to call your own, it feels like a wasted opportunity to really harken back to what made the following DLC so much fun to play. But that does bring me on to one of the Beast's biggest shortcomings in my opinion: progression. I think the reason Dying Light is such a replayable game, and one that I have happily revisited time and time again over the last decade, is because there's such an amazing feeling of progression as you play it. You begin as a relatively weak everyman, and although you can free run, you have awful cardio. It takes so many swings of a pipe to kill one zombie, and you have almost no skills. It doesn't take long before all of those things are non-issues though. There are 3 dedicated skill trees for you as a survivor, as a hand-to-hand fighter, and as a free runner. And give or take, every 20 minutes you feel like you're being rewarded for playing because one of those skill trees is giving you a point to spend on a new skill. The speed of that progression is literally shown to you by a centralized XP bar where you can see your in-game experiences leading to your next unlock. Those skill trees also feel really rewarding to climb because everything you unlock actually feels useful. They're all things that make the experience of playing more fun and make the environment around you feel a lot easier to deal with. And by the end of the game, you become Zombie Apocalypse Batman. You have a grappling hook that helps you zip around, you have all of the parkour skills you need to outrun the game's hardest enemies, and even without more powerful weapons, you are a force to be reckoned with, because there are loads of ways to deal with human and infected enemies. Are you overpowered by the end of the game? A little bit. But that isn't a problem because it's a PvE game that is fun to play, and it means that there's a satisfying contrast with the start of the game when you feel really underpowered. In Dying Like the Beast, that feeling of being totally underpowered doesn't just last for a few opening hours. For me, it took about 10 hours to actually start feeling as though I was capable of easily dealing with the environment around me. In other words, it took that long to start feeling confident that I wasn't going to get grabbed to death by every zombie I encountered. Yes, I know Techland has patched that issue, but holy shit was it annoying. It's nice to have a lot of Kyle Crane's skills from the first game as soon as you start playing, but the upgrades you do get in this game feel so disparate, partly because all your XP is now going into one centralized pot, but the things you unlock don't really feel as though they're making much of a difference to you and the way you're playing. Even the final skills you unlock on the centralized skill tree are Camouflage, the ability to coat yourself in zombie guts, Windmill, where you twirl around in a circle while holding a two-handed weapon, and Parkour Shot, the ability to shoot in midair by going into slow motion. That last one doesn't even appear in the first Dying Light game, but those first two, those are at best middling skills from the first game that absolutely do not feel like endgame abilities in a game where Kyle Crane is supposed to feel like a beast. He's supposed to feel vastly more powerful than he was in previous games. Again, it's nice to have the majority of his moveset from the get-go, but what that means is that the game lacks that consistent feeling of rewarding you for playing, or like you're actually increasing your strength and capabilities in minute-to-minute gameplay. Instead, most of Dying Like the Beast's progression is focused into the Beast skill tree, which unlocks new Hulk smash abilities for Crane's rage bursts. These aren't exactly timely though, and depend upon you playing the main campaign quests. I'm gonna be honest with you here, and this may or may not be a controversial take, but the beast mode in this game might actually be the least appealing part for me. Okay, yes, the opening few hours are filled with novelty as you fill up the rage meter and you can suddenly rip zombies' heads off or literally stick your arm through them, but that novelty wore off really quickly. For about half of the story, you don't even have the ability to trigger this rage mode at will, which just means it ends up triggering at really inconvenient moments. The cycle of using the beast mode got old really quick for me, and it's not the feeling of overpowered gameplay that I want from a Dying Light experience. I want to feel like a zombie apocalypse ninja minute to minute so that I can play in the game's sandbox with the tools I want to use. I don't want to be limited to button mashing a few abilities every 15 minutes and constantly feel like I'm waiting around for those skills to become available. By the end of Dying Like the Beast, Kyle Crane feels a fraction as powerful in minute-to-minute gameplay as he does at the end of the first game. Although he levels up and technically gets access to more skills, the balancing of the infected and human enemies feels totally off, and there's no better example of that than fighting volatiles. By the end of the first Dying Light, you probably won't be able to take on every volatile you see at night, but you will be able to give them a fight, and you're absolutely strong enough to kill a few before being overrun. Now, in Dying Like the Beast, I'm going to assume the developers intended you to fight volatiles exclusively using the beast mode, but for a test, to serve my point, towards the end of Dying Like the Beast, look how long it takes to kill just one volatile without using beast mode.
shouldn't take that long to kill a volatile at the end of the fucking game.
One of Dying Light's most pivotal aspects is its day-night cycle, and something that I love about it is that it's unequivocally tied to the feeling of progression you get throughout the game. The night needs to feel dangerous and scary, but as you play more, you should feel comfortable braving the nights for the double XP or just an extra level of challenge. With Crane feeling this limited in his power, the nighttime felt unplayable for me without co-op partners, even after the credits rolled. When you don't have that strong feeling of progression, allowing players to feel comfortable playing at night, you pretty much kill the need for a day-night cycle because most people are just gonna skip it by sleeping. Sadly, even in the daytime, the Beast didn't feel all that satisfying to play for me, and that's because its resource economy feels really different from the first game. I'm gonna preempt some comments right now and say that Dying Light is a zombie apocalypse game, so it's only natural that there are times when you're short of a resource or two. It might be medical supplies in the first game, or mushrooms for a booster, or maybe it's weapon parts or crafting materials. Thankfully, quests in OG Dying Light are designed so that when you're missing these things, you learn to find them by playing missions. A quest that takes you to the bridge teaches you that it's a treasure trove to visit when you need medical supplies. The weirdo side characters who ask you to find magic mushrooms for them let you know where you can get those from, and frequent supply drops and encounters with Rice's thugs give you access to vital materials you can use for crafting or deliver to a quartermaster in exchange for XP and more crafting parts. The Beast doesn't really have quests like that, and even frequent run-ins with survivor events and the Baron's men give you hardly any ammo for guns, crafting resources for weapons, or genuinely useful items. The closest thing to pinch points on the map for finding these specific items is the game's dark zones. These little stealth dungeons might offer more chance for better loot, but it feels like once you've done one of them, you've done all of them. I love stealth games, but that is not the experience I want from a Dying Light game. And yet, every dark zone feels like the developers forcing you into a stealth scenario, which just results in a repeating cycle of choking out zombie after zombie. Okay, you might think, let's just go loud and fight all the zombies. That's a great idea, but that's a resource-heavy playstyle. You need weapons that will be durable, you need health kits, you might need ammo or something else. And most of the time I went into these dark zones, it was because I was missing all of those resources. So essentially, I felt like I was being forced to play stealthily in a game where I don't really want to play stealthily. Your only options for making stealth quicker are to use a throwing knife to stab an enemy, or to use something like a bow and arrow. I loved throwing knives in the first game, and I absolutely adored the bow and arrow, but you could pick up all of your arrows after you'd fired them. For some reason, in Dying Light the Beast, you can only pick up a fraction of the arrows you fire, and you never get knives back if you use them. So actually, using any projectile to make stealth more bearable ends up feeding this cycle of needing resources to play the way that you want to. You might be thinking, well, I didn't have that experience, maybe you're not looting enough. Let me fill you in. I am insufferable in games like this because I compulsively have to loot everything I see. Every box, every crate I find in the world, every body. I loot literally everything. In the first Dying Light, from playing like that, I felt as though I had an excess of materials. In Dying Light the Beast, I loot absolutely everything, and I feel as though the game is giving me junk to sell as opposed to the crafting materials I actually need. This wouldn't really be an issue, but the way that weapons work in comparison to the first Dying Light makes it a problem. Dying Light has always had weapon degradation, but as you level up, your weapons become more powerful and robust, and even early on, you can boost weaponry with things like Titan and King, which make them more durable. And when it comes time to repair a weapon, all you need to do is hold down one button and repair it. In Dying Light the Beast, weapons degrade really quickly until you get pretty much all the way through one of the skill trees where you finally learn to use them more efficiently. But repairing them? Well, that now happens exclusively in the menus. You have to physically take yourself out of the gameplay by heading into a menu, find the weapon, and repair it before returning to whatever you're doing. You can't put boosts like Titan or King on any weaponry because now you're limited to positional blueprint upgrades, and you can only put one of each type on your weapons. weapons. And the part that really sucks is that to modify any weapon, I need to upgrade its blueprint to a higher tier first. I know this is a system from Dying Light 2, but this isn't Borderlands. I don't need a rarity system in a game like this. Repairing those weapons, let alone improving them, can also feel pretty tedious when crafting parts are as rare as they are. I had a few hours in the middle of this game where I had no materials to repair my weapons with, so I just had an inventory of stuff I couldn't use. So the only solution I found was to go to a merchant, I looked at the crafting parts menu they had, and I bought everything. If someone like me, who loots literally everything in the game because their brain is broken, can only repair weaponry by buying every crafting component that every merchant has, the resource economy of the game is way out of balance. At the start of the year, when I did my 10 years later deep dive on it, I talked about how Dying Light's progression making you feel OP was actually a good thing. I talked about how its map was a Goldilocks size, and I went into detail on why offering players a fun experience above all else is why that game has stood the test of time. I am in no way expecting Techland to engage with my content, let alone listen to me, but the Beast really didn't deliver on those 3 core aspects of what I loved about the first game. But hey, I guess what they have done has really worked, because praise for Dying Light the Beast is through the roof, and do you know what? I'm honestly really glad to see this franchise get more praise after Dying Light 2, and hey, maybe some updates will negate some of the issues I talk about in this video, but either way, I can still see myself coming back to the original Dying Light for years to come. I can't really see myself clambering over a massive backlog of games just to revisit Castor Woods, and as a massive fan of this franchise, that's a real shame. Hey, thank you so much for watching. I know that a lot of you may disagree with the points that I've brought up in this video, so if you haven't already, please feel free to make your voice heard in the comments section below. If you fancy keeping up with me and the projects I have in the works, or chatting about video games, movies, music, and general life with me in a growing community, feel free to join my Discord server. The link is in the description. Thank you again so much for watching this. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button and the bell icon. All the best, and tune in next time.